The Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fantasy Footballers. Our normal host has metamorphosized into Patrick Tweederson.
Hello, everybody.
I don't know if that's coming through or not.
Today's
Halloween.
show is a special YouTube-friendly show, as well as the Fantasy Sports Network. Hello, everybody. It is the day before Halloween, and we are in costume. We couldn't hear our wonderful host because he was talking through a bird head.
Are we recording?
You sounded like Bane.
Hello. I guess I'm back now.
Today will be your reckoning.
Well, that costume didn't work. I'm going to have to save that one for tomorrow night with the kids, which will probably be on for another 5 seconds, and then I'll take it off because that was
That
suffocating.
seems really like hot.
Yeah, but I looked amazing,
You
right?
did. You looked real good.
Well, it is me, Patrick Tweederson, along with Jason
Jiu-Jitsu. Jason
Jiu-Jitsu Moore,
Jiu-Jitsu.
and Marty McFly himself.
Hey!
Doc. Well, we have a good show for you today. Halloween is tomorrow. Are you guys excited to take the kids out?
Very excited.
Oh, yeah. They
That's
love
always
it.
fun.
My kids are addicted to crack sugar.
Well, you know, like father, like
Fair enough. I'm just looking forward to punishing them for doing something wrong so I can take their
the
candy.
candy.
It's the old dad trick.
yeah. You guys are going to bed early tonight.
Son, your shoelaces are untied. You know what that means.
Dad gets a
nom,
Snickers.
nom, nom, nom.
Dad gets a Snickers. We got a good show for you today. We got the news and notes. We've got our in and out segment for essentially letting you know which guys we think are going to play this week and not play. Kind of important to play the ones that are in there.
Yeah, the guys that sit, they just don't score any points.
Not anymore.
I hope you played
Not
Deion
in the modern
Lewis
day.
last night.
I did.
My goodness.
Yeah, we got our fantasy forecast, by the way. We have the second half of the games. We got our daily dose with Mr. Chris Meaney, which everybody loves, our DFS segment.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I mean, we can muse on that a little bit.
On the Thursday game?
Yeah, I mean, it was a massacre. And,
Well,
remember that 8-point line we were talking about?
yeah. And honestly, I thought the Miami defense played pretty well in the first half.
So the Patriots are going undefeated.
The
That's what
first-
you're saying.
Yeah, oh yeah, the Patriots are going undefeated. But the first half, I mean, the defense, aside from the one busted Gronkowski touchdown, held them pretty decently. You had the safety, which was completely Ryan Tannehill's fault. I don't know how the entire unit is, like, the offensive line was all synced up together, and Ryan Tannehill's like, I'm going to change something.
I love the high-speed cameras that we have now that can catch the eyeballs of those quarterbacks when the snaps fly by them. Like we had Bradford have that happen. And then Tannehill, it was like, woo!
Yeah, the surprise and fear.
It was the Doc Brown. It was funny. So, yeah, we got a great show. Thanks for tuning in, enjoying our Halloween antics to start the show. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. You can find us on YouTube and check out those costumes we keep talking about.
Subscribe
on YouTube. TheFantasyFootballers.com is our home on the web. We actually just put up some Fantasy Footballers logo shirts for the first time ever. People have always said, where do I get a shirt with your logo on it? And we've always been like, you can't. We don't want you to spread our podcast. I don't remember saying it exactly like that. But we finally figured it out. So we put some up there. And actually, if you're a member at jointhefoot.com, you get a discount on those logo shirts as well. You guys, we don't got a quick question. We've got another Juanbelievable stat of the week.
Hit me.
Ready?
Hit me.
Juanbelievable stat of the week.
Hey, what's up, Foot Clan? I just wanted to beam a stat down to you that shows just how crazy a year it's been at the quarterback position. Through the first 7 weeks of the season, 32 different quarterbacks have recorded at least one top 12 or QB1 performance. And even crazier than that, 27 different signal callers have put up at least one top 6 performance. The only 2 quarterbacks to rank in the top 12 in every week they've played, Tom Brady and Andy Dalton.
And Tom Brady continues.
Yeah.
I think the most impressive thing about that stat was the top 27 different quarterbacks have finished in the top 6.
There's
Yeah.
only 32 teams.
That's bizarre, man.
I think
By bizarre, I mean not really.
You mean exactly what we've been saying since before the draft season.
Well, even more though. I think it's become more significant this year, even than in years past. I mean, I don't remember a year where you could start McCown and Hoyer and all these guys on this level, Kirk Cousins, and get these kind of Tannehill last week. You know,
Because the NFL has become so friendly to the passing game and to the offense, what happens is there becomes a disparity in the defenses. There are certain defenses that are more equipped because they have the few elite cornerbacks. And so that therefore there are some defenses that are sieves. Thank you. That are sieves for that. And so that's why when we pick the quarterback to play, we're looking at very often we're looking more at the bad defense than the quality of the quarterback. Look, here is a secret that I don't think everybody knows.
I know what the secret is.
The secret is there's not a bad NFL quarterback. Not one quarterback in the NFL is a bad quarterback. They are all capable of throwing great touchdown passes, every single one of them. So you want them against a bad defense. That and you could stream them and have fantasy success.
I have a quick question.
Somewhere EJ Manuel's going, yeah, yeah.
Just a quick question.
You believe in me? No, I don't.
Our shirts that with the logo are they short sleeved?
Oh,
I thought that your top secret was going to be something related to the fact that most teams run through the air now.
yeah, they're running on air.
Because I'm loving the amount of Bill Belichick running through the air pictures that have shown up on our Twitter. All right, let's get into the news and notes for today.
News and notes from around the league.
All righty, pretty bad news. Cameron Wake down with the Achilles last night.
And Cameron Wake was kind of featured on our Mailbag show. Coincidence?
He was?
Well, we talked about him with our good friend of the show, Chris Harris. We were talking about.
I mean, this is just
Cameron
sad. It's sad, and we got 2 Achilles injuries in the last, week, I guess.
Yeah,
and
but brutal loss for the Dolphins.
Yeah, just a terrible night overall for the Dolphins. Let's see. What else do I want to mention here? Adrian Peterson did not practice for a second straight day on Thursday. What's the expectation with him?
I think he's still going to play.
Yeah,
I would
think
assume so.
That's the assessment. I'm trying to see if there's any big news here
that is not injury
related. Cecil Shorts is out.
Nasty.
Which broke earlier.
Nasty
so.
Nate. What
do you think about Nate Washington?
As we talked about Robert Woods last week, Nasty Nate is in that category. Clearly the opportunity is not as great because he's not the number one. DeAndre Hopkins is still the number one in the offense, but Nasty Nate's been getting nasty targets weekly, and so I think
he's only been back for 1 week.
Through every game he's played, he's had
Sure.
a decent amount of targets.
Sure.
So moving forward, if you're like, oh crap, I need a wide receiver, Nate Washington, man, he's probably on your wire.
He is almost certainly on your wire.
Yeah, no, he's a great pickup. He might have got picked up this week. When you get 2 touchdowns, you probably got picked up in waivers, or at least you might have. So basically, we're gonna walk through here each position. I'm gonna give you the name. You guys let me know if you think they're playing this week. Maybe give me a sentence about how they're doing, or let me know what you know about their situation if it's kind of up in the air. So let's go ahead and do that.
What's it gonna be, McFly? Are you in or out?
Okay, I can't help but ask Mike the question first, though, if it's McFly. So, Marcus Mariota, what's the expectation?
So
in or out?
So it's the knee injury, and he's been practicing. I think he's in.
Jason?
I believe he is foolishly in.
Josh McCown.
Oh, he's gonna play because he's a tough guy.
He really is tough. I believe
So you're
that.
in as well?
I am in as well.
All right, Big Ben, in or out?
Oh, it's a good day to be an Antonio Brown owner when Ben Roethlisberger returns.
He's
in.
In. All right, running backs. Let's go through these. Carlos Hyde.
If you can call what he's been doing in, then that's what he's going to keep doing.
Ouch, low blow, but definitely in.
All right, James Starks.
In.
Yep.
It wasn't sounding good earlier, but I think he's in.
That's bad news for Eddie Lacy owners, I think.
Joey Randall.
Joseph Randall out.
Yeah, Joseph Randall out this week. and probably out in a few weeks.
All right, I got a bunch of wide receivers for you. Emmanuel Sanders.
In.
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, for if you didn't know, he tweaked his knee in practice, but he's going to be in.
He's a tough guy. In.
John Brown.
I'm saying out. If he's in, he's going to be limited. They're not going to put him on all the deep passes, but that's a tough call. What do you think, Mike?
I think he's going to be out with the Cardinals bye week coming up. So
Michael
Floyd alert.
Michael Floyd. Eric Decker.
In.
He always. If Eric Decker doesn't have something torn, I'm always going to say he's in.
Devontae Adams.
In.
Dez Bryant.
This is the big one. I'm still not convinced.
I'm going to say
out.
I'm going to say in. But if he's in, I've heard different opinions here. If he's in, he's Dez Bryant. You have to play him. I
agree.
But
you
disagree.
guys both think that?
No.
I don't agree with that.
Here's the deal. Like, there's not very many guys.
Nate Washington
or
Dez Bryant
ooh.
I feel like you still have to play Dez Bryant.
Mike Evans or Dez Bryant.
Oh, Mike Evans is top guy this week. But Nate Washington is a good example. I think if we're at that tier, I would roll with the
Dez.
upside of
I'd play
Dez. But it's a bad matchup too. They're playing Seattle.
All right, in or out, Vincent Jackson.
Out.
In or out, Anquan Bolden.
I think he's in.
He's tough.
All right. And then the only tight end of note to kind of monitor, two of them. Antonio Gates.
Out.
And then Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
I think he's out.
All right, that does it for the in and out today.
So before we get to the rest of our fantasy forecast, letting you guys know what we think of the games, we want to thank our sponsor, FanDuel. We've been talking about FanDuel all season because it is fantastic fun over at FanDuel.com. They are the leader in 1 week fantasy football. The money's real. They're expecting to pay out over $2 billion this year. That's a lot of cash.
And
that's a lot of quiche.
Seriously, just makes Sunday more fun.
Yeah, and so building a team is easy. You pick your players, you stay under the salary cap, you sit back, you watch the games, and you can win. Entry fees start at just $1. Anyone can play. You think you know about football? Come prove it at FanDuel.com. Like last week, Chris from North Carolina won $40K.
Ba-boom.
$40K. That's ridiculousness. You got to get in on this. It's fun, and you have a chance to win. It's never too late to join. Come play every week this season over at FanDuel.com. This is what we need the Foot Clan to do. You go to FanDuel.com, you click the microphone in the upper right-hand corner, and you use our code BALLERS. So
That was a triple.
And it's a special offer for new users who use our code BALLERS. For every $1 you deposit and play, FanDuel will match it with up to 200 free buckaroonies. So don't forget to use our promo code BALLERS, FanDuel.com, where every day is a new season. That's FanDuel.com. Sign up today.
All right, guys, let's get into the second half of the Week 8 matchups right now.
Fantasy Forecast.
All right, you guys excited for Week 8?
Am I excited? Well, I was very excited until Edelman ruined my weekend yesterday.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to give a status update because I know that of all the things we see on the show, the number one thing people are concerned about is the team that was 1-4 in our league of record. My team was 1-4.
At one time.
And I came out on the air at 1-4 and said, "Look, I want you to follow along with me on my attempt to come back, make the playoffs, and win the league." And so I am now 3-4. That's the current situation. And I had Brady, Gronk, and Deion Lewis last night.
And you lost Arian Foster.
I lost Arian Foster in this league when I was 3-4.
And you have one of the scary best teams in this league.
And so I am almost assuredly going to win this week because I am leading 86-9 after Thursday night football. And so with lots of guys left. So stay tuned. I think I'm going to be back to
Ryan Tannehill ended up with 9 points?
Yeah.
Wow. He's lucky.
Yeah, seriously. So stay tuned. The comeback trail has been blazed. I don't know what that means. All right, the Giants head into New Orleans and take on the Saints, who are playing improved football, especially on the defensive side. Last week, they really humbled Andrew Luck, minus the end of the game kind of literal collapse of their cornerback. Right. Like, I mean, if those get
Bro down.
So the Giants and Saints, what is essentially standing out for you in this game?
I still, despite the Saints' effort against Andrew Luck last week, I still love Eli Manning this week moving forward. I think it's a great opportunity. The Saints are still giving up a good amount of points. So Eli is a top play for me this week.
Talk to me about Orleans Darkwa.
Orleans Darkwa.
Are we talking about Orleans in Orleans?
Whoa.
That is actually kind of blowing my mind a little bit.
Boom.
Orleans Darkwa, I expect to be the starting running back for the New York Giants.
What?
I do.
Yeah, I do. I actually do too.
You guys are nuts.
Look, I've got him statted as a somewhat flexible start. He is in RB3 territory, which generally speaking, I would prefer my flex to be above an RB3. But he should have a floor that is decently high because I believe he's going to lead this team in carries this week. And New Orleans doesn't have a great run D. So, if you're in a deep league and you need to start, even after the waivers have gone through, he's probably still there. I think he's at least 90% unowned.
I still think Jennings is the man to own this backfield. I don't really want to play anyone, honestly, from this backfield. I think that Darkwa cuts into Andre Williams, if anybody. I still think Jennings is the lead.
I do agree that I see Orleans Darkwa as the Andre replacement. I do see that. The problem is I think if Andre was better, he would replace Jennings. And maybe that's Orleans.
That's all spun together to me. I mean, those are just totally different players. I mean, Darkwa is the Jennings type player. He's not the Williams type, goal line guy. Williams' role, if anything at all, is not to be the speedster. He's the blunt of the group. So for me,
right.
I think it eats like you two should make a bet about Darkwa and Jennings carries this week.
That's what I was gonna say.
Who has more carries or
carries this week?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What about touches?
All right.
Okay.
I'll take touches.
Okay, I'll do touches.
Waterbed.
Orleans Darkwa.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's an interesting thing because for me, people had different guys at the top of the waiver list, and obviously, depending on what league you're in, guys are available, not available. Darkwa was at the top of my list because these things can get figured out if he has another big game. In terms of more carries on an offense, that's good. They don't like Williams. Vereen is, passing down specialist. So I don't know. They needed a spark on offense. He gave it to him, 8 for 48 and a touchdown. So talk to me about the down week from Odell Beckham Jr. Do we just move past that without a blink?
Pretty much. But this was kind of the first week that he's really been practicing in full. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to show up and play. So I like Beckham to return to form. I think the problem with him is just the defense is adjusting, and he's still a smaller guy, and they're rattling him on the line, which sure he has the talent and everything to get above these, but their defenses have figured out a way to kind of slow him down a little bit more.
All right. What about Randall? Would you play Ruben Randall this week? Ruben Randall or Nate Washington?
Nate Washington.
Okay.
I'm a little
Ruben
worried.
Randall or Willie Snead?
Willie Snead.
Probably Snead.
Here's the reason I'm worried about Randall's because I'm a little bit worried about Eli Manning. Now, this could be, like you're saying, Mike, a complete bounce-back game. It's a pretty good candidate for a bounce-back game considering the defense he's running up against isn't the best. But you saw 2 weeks in a row where Eli Manning was horrific.
Yes.
I mean, he was just playing terrible.
Well, last week, I mean, he kind of got game flowed out. The Giants' defense took care of the scoring.
I agree.
But I agree. But it's been two poor performances, fantasy performances.
I think this will be a high-scoring game. I think Ben Watson's a good start. He's my start of the week at the tight end position. All right, let's move on to the 49ers at the Rams. Okay, this game's in St. Louis.
Let's move on to the Buccaneers with the Falcons.
The Rams actually are playing great, so I don't want to overlook them. I think the moving on portion of our mentality should be maybe on the 49ers side.
Yeah.
Gurley, number one on the board this week.
Yep, I can't argue with that.
Let me ask you this. Somebody wrote in, and they're sitting at 3 and 4. They were offered Gurley for Ivory Cobb.
They get Gurley.
They give up Ivory Cobb. They are 3-4.
To me, it completely depends on their wide receiver depth.
Their wide receiver depth was, I'll rate it as okay.
Then no, I wouldn't do it. I would rather have Ivory and Cobb than Gurley, even though I prefer Gurley to Ivory.
Yeah, because I like Ivory I like Ivory a lot, but I think I would do it.
Is Gurley the best running back rest of season?
No,
He's a
Second.
top 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Top
So
3.
who would you say is the third? Because clearly Le'Veon Bell is there, Gurley is there, and then you would say the third is?
The third is an unknown at this
Okay.
point. I'm not confident enough to say Gurley is the
Sure,
number 2
sure.
moving forward.
This
but I'll give
week
him
we
top
expect him to be humongously.
3. Yes, absolutely.
What do we think about the 49ers side of the ball from a fantasy perspective? Carlos Hyde has put up pretty much pure duds for a while now. He had one kind of back in the mix game where he scored a touchdown, but this team, I mean, the Rams defense
Yeah, this isn't
is
the game.
outstanding at home. They're favored by 8 points. They're
Wow.
my favorite defense.
The
to start
the
the
Rams
season.
Rams
favored
are
by
favored
eight,
by 8
yeah.
points. Congratulations, Rams fans.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
and their defense was on the mark last week.
You
against McCown.
combine Carlos Hyde's injury problem with his foot against this Rams defense and Colin Kaepernick just
Do you just straight
spiraling.
up sit? Do you sit Carlos Hyde?
You probably don't have a better option, but
Carlos Hyde or Darkwa?
I'd still play Hyde.
Okay.
I would as well, but that's where it's close. And I think that there is
Carlos
think
Hyde
there
or
are-
C.J. Spiller?
Oh man,
if you're in a PPR, I think you might be able to make that move to
yeah, it's
Spiller.
Spiller. Oh, that's very close.
But in general, I would take Hyde. There are plenty of leagues out there, though, where you have a replacement for Hyde and you can sit him.
There are.
I think so. I definitely think
I
so.
think there was a lot of people who turned down trades for Carlos Hyde after week 1 and thought that they had, we said it on the show. We asked the question, is Carlos Hyde a top 5 running back rest of season? And I think our consensus was,
we said a top 10.
okay, so top 10, we kind of said, yeah, we think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out their offense is that bad
Well,
that he
here's-
can't be productive, and the injury.
The truth is, if he could do exactly what he did in the first week, he'd be a top 10 running
Yeah,
back.
well, excellent.
every
Yeah, and Lamar Miller would be a Hall of Famer. so.
every play I watch, I think Hyde is extremely talented. He is.
Yes,
he runs
agreed.
great behind that line. It's just when you're a power running back, you have to be on a team that has a lead every now and then. And that's not really the case for the San Francisco.
The Buccaneers head into Atlanta and take on the Falcons, who are favored by 7. The line in this game is about 50 points. Winston Ryan facing off in this one. I think the big kind of fantasy takeaway for me from this game that needs to stand out for you, we're all starting Devontae Freeman. We're all starting Julio Jones. We're all starting Doug Martin at this point. I expect Mike Evans to have a monster game this week, a top 5 type of game. If Vincent Jackson sits, which he's most definitely going to do, in fact, his injury is probably multi-week, Mike Evans is simply too big, too fast, too strong to be stopped. And this team isn't the team to stop them. They're 25th against the pass. Mike Evans is a must start this week.
Completely agree. I think he gets force-fed targets, and no Safarian Jenkins, no VJax, and no Murphy, who was their third wide receiver. So I mean, the Buccaneers are hurting.
If
from
you had
pass
been
catchers.
waiting for Evans to kind of get into the flow, you saw it start last week. VJax missed half the game. He went out in the third quarter. So I think the sky's the limit for Mike Evans.
Absolutely.
I kind of like Sims in this game because, like I said, they're
probably
struggling
down.
They're struggling for pass catchers. So and Sims has been playing quite well. He's just overshadowed right now because Martin has exploded the last 3 weeks.
It's kind of a bewildering thing to have kind of 2 relevant running backs from this offense because in the preseason we talked about how, we thought they would be the exact same fantasy relevance as the Titans are right now.
Right.
Which is don't touch the backfield with a 20-foot pole, right?
You might get a disease.
Did you see they diagnosed someone with bubonic plague?
What?
You guys are both surprised.
Who's got the plague?
There was a little girl in.
I thought you were saying
me too.
I thought you
a
were
player
Someone in the NFL
Yeah.
has come down with the bubonic plague.
No.
Where's this little girl?
in Oregon.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's in
She'll
the
be
US?
fine. Like apparently there have been 8 cases of, of bubonic plague since like the 90s.
Yeah, every once in a while they pop up.
I just thought it was.
It's
It's just a random piece of news I read this morning.
It's just a little bit of plague.
I only thought about.
It's just a little.
I thought about it when I said I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I was like, because,
Ah.
the backfield
I was
in the
wondering-
Titans is kind of like the bubonic plague. That's the stretch I was reading. That's where I ended up. Okay, so do we expect Matt Ryan to put up a top 12 performance this week?
I do. I think the matchup is great for Matt Ryan, and
Is that what your sports almanac tells you?
I've looked to the future, and I'm not saying top 5, but I think Matt Ryan finally gets back on track this week.
All right, let's move on to the Jets facing Oakland. Jason, give me your thoughts on the Fitzmagic Carr combo here. Do you think Ryan Fitzpatrick has a chance at a top 12 performance this week?
Yeah, I do. He was close to my stream of the week. The Raiders' defense is okay. It's not a defense that you can just flat say start everyone against them. However, their pass D is their weakest point. And so the Jets, Fitzpatrick, he has weapons. And that's really one of the things we look for a successful quarterback. Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, those guys are both going to have decent games this week, so that should propel him to a top 12 start. Derek Carr, who I think this show loves, we're big fans of. Nobody's a bigger fan of him than you, Andy. You are like his mother. And
I'm like his mother.
But this is a week where I would be more fearful to start him. We saw last week he put up a great game against San Diego, but San Diego was missing one of their best players in their secondary.
Weddle, they're the free safety.
Yeah, so that helps, and they were coming off a bye. I don't expect Carr to carve up the Jets.
You are a cunning linguist, my friend.
Yeah, so I like Fitzpatrick quite a bit. Ivory should be healthy as much as Ivory gets healthy. He practiced in full this week. Zach Stacy came in sections of the game last week, and he failed miserably.
Jason's
raising
raised.
his hand.
His hand is
I
up.
have a question for you two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Stephen Ridley a pick-up and stash guy at this point right now?
No.
With Ivory's?
No.
You don't think so?
Not at all.
Okay. So you're a not at all.
I will say this. I've paid very close attention to that situation, being an Ivory owner. Ridley started practicing. He may end up getting activated based on Bilal Powell's injuries and things like that. But from everything I've read from the New York writers, from people observing him at practice, he doesn't have, even the coaches have said, he doesn't have the burst that he needs to play right now. You mix that together with the fact they already have Stacy and Powell in depth. I mean, to me, it's just like saying, it's a Sankey at best situation.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, because I haven't really followed closely on the Stephen Ridley train.
I'm glad you brought it up, because people are asking that question. And the time may come this season where you'd want to grab him as your handcuff for the playoff run if he turns out to be that handcuff. But right now it's not the case. So what else do we need to talk about from this game? Would you start Michael Crabtree against the Jets? Is he an option because Cooper might be locked down with Revis?
I would start him. I don't. He's not a full.
Would you still start Cooper?
Yeah, you have to start Cooper.
Statistically, the Jets are fourth against the pass, first against the run, and the Broncos are first against the pass, fourth against the run. So they're equivalent, kind of defensive statistically, or they're equal defenses, kind of in that upper echelon. Probably the best two pure defenses in the league. The only problem I'd say with the Jets D is that you're going to go into the playoff schedule. And if you're in Week 16, they get to face the Patriots, and you just don't want to touch that. So make sure you have multiple options in your playoff run.
So if you're desperate for a tight end, and we know that tight ends have had pretty good success against the Raiders, are you throwing out Cumberland?
I have a really hard. Yeah, I don't either.
Other options. There are other options. I'd rather play probably Walford on the other side of the ball.
You know who is
for upside.
You've also got. Decker, to me, is he's going to fill in those zones that the tight ends leak to. So you might see that as the same. I mean, obviously, it's the same exact defense that's having to guard Decker, and Decker might be a better play.
Decker had his first game of the season without a touchdown.
So that means 2 touchdowns.
But he had 94 yards still. So, I mean, he's played exceptionally well. If he sits, however, the Brandon Marshall show and Target Express is going to come. So the Seahawks go into Dallas and face the Cowboys. The Cowboys are 6-point underdogs at home. The over-under on this game is 41. Russell Wilson, fantasy-wise, has been a disappointment this year. He's had one game kind of in the top echelon, and then the rest of the games have kind of been, you could find them anywhere on the waiver wire. Is there any reason to, if you're an owner of Wilson, you're probably tempted not to drop him. Would you drop Russell Wilson?
No. His baseline is high enough where he should stay on a roster. You drop someone else and pick them up.
And the thing that is not a coincidence is 0 rushing touchdowns for Russell Wilson and no explosive fantasy quarterback games for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. It probably will, but good luck predicting which one game that takes place. And now a lot of people are facing this decision. Darren McFadden's not on everybody's top list at the beginning of the season. They picked him up on waivers, and now they have to say things like this with their mouths. Darren McFadden or Eddie Lacy this week.
Oh, well, that's crazy.
Man.
I'm going to go, if Starks plays, then I would say Darren McFadden is going to be about equal, which means I'm going Eddie Lacy.
I would still go Eddie Lacy. I mean, you got Eddie Lacy against Denver or McFadden against the Seahawks.
Do you think that McFadden's baseline could be lifted from dump-off passes?
It absolutely could be, yes.
I have Darren McFadden as my start of the week, and even against Seattle, solely because I'm saying he will still be an RB2.
Darren McFadden or Jeremy Hill?
Jeremy
I would
Hill.
rather have Darren McFadden this week.
Jeremy Hill. I'm back on.
Darren McFadden or Danny Woodhead?
Woodhead.
All right. Other relevant players from this game, Jimmy Graham, you're starting him. Jason Witten, you're starting him. What do we think about the future of Mr. Lockett? Is it good enough? Is it possible that he could be a flex start this week?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you go ahead.
Any week he could be a flex start, but you're playing a complete gamble. It's the problem I have with Jimmy Graham. It's a problem I have with Lockett. It's a problem I have with Doug Baldwin. It's a problem with any pass-catching guy for Seattle. You just don't have enough for one of those guys to have consistent week after week games. It's going to be game plan dependent, and normally on most teams you've got 2 or 3 guys that get enough balls each game where you can kind of say their average is going to be okay, but it's just not the way Seattle plays, and so I'm never wanting to start one. He's an absolutely fine flex play, but you've got to realize he's either going to have a great game or he's going to be a complete dud in your roster.
It's got to be a deep league for me
Okay.
to play one of those
All right.
wide receivers.
Sunday Night Football, the Packers facing the Broncos. This should be a fun one. It's, doesn't get much more dramatic on TV to see Rodgers on one side of the ball, Manning on the other side, regardless of how Manning is playing.
Is this line accurate that the Packers are favored in Denver?
We can
Someone needs-
we can vet it. We
Yes,
can vet it,
I will
but
check
I
that.
think that is the accurate line.
Because that
That can't be right.
I'm
that
checking.
can't be right.
I'm checking.
Okay. I'll
Well,
let
you think about how bad their offense.
yeah, but they're they're both undefeated.
They're both-
So one of them's gonna stop that train.
guys, one of these teams will not be undefeated after Sunday night.
That is not 100% true because they could. Tie.
Oh, they could tie.
They could tie.
Dang it.
Yeah. Did you find it, Jay?
I'm checking multiple sources.
So let's talk, Mike. Talk about the fantasy kind of pieces of this game and what stands out to you.
So I think the biggest standout, kind of like the biggest pressing question for me, is Devontae Adams, James Jones situation, where people have been riding high on James Jones as a basically a borderline wide receiver 1 weekly because he puts up double-digit points every single week. Devontae Adams is expected to be back. Will Adams return to his old role immediately, or does he slide in as that tertiary option for Green Bay?
I would go with that one.
You think he'll be the 3?
I think he will be the 3 in terms of targets. Yeah, right now, for sure.
The thing I like about Devontae Adams is I think he will be the 3 in terms of coverage. If you're the opposing team, I think you're more worried about James Jones and Randall Cobb at this point. And Devontae Adams is going to do better against not number 1 coverage. When he was in to start the year, he was the guy actually taking that number 1 coverage and getting the number 1 target. So
It's really hard to say that he played this year.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
While I don't like the matchup, I wouldn't roll him out this week. I think him going down and then coming back could be good for his value going forward because of the coverage he's going to see.
Who would you rather start this week, Demaryius Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders?
Demaryius Thomas.
By the way, that
Thomas.
line, Jason checked it. It is accurate
Yep. Green
Wow.
Bay favored 3.
in Denver.
All right,
So,
and so let's talk running back situations. You have Anderson, Bustasaurus, or Ronnie Hillman, who has not been much better.
Ronnie Hillman by a lot.
Yeah. Ronnie Hillman is the starter and will receive the bulk of the carries and I think can do something with it. It's not the best matchup for him, but they're coming off a bye and they can work out some of those kinks.
I've been telling people this too about Lacy. I'm coming around on him being the guy in the second half of this season, but if you're trading for him, if you are waiting for him, please, you might need to wait another 2 weeks. Denver is a top 5 run defense. They play Carolina next week. It doesn't mean he can't do anything. Like Jason said, if Starks is out, the projection and baseline for Lacy goes up. We've had some sources talk to us about his weight and the fact that he came into camp
just out of shape,
significantly heavier than he should be, and you might have noticed that on the field. It might have impacted the injury, and so some question marks. But I am coming around to the fact that I think he'll get it together and have to be. He's been a monster type of guy, literally. I mean, sometimes he takes his jersey off and he has that Hulk thing on underneath it. So. Anything else from this game before we hit the Monday Night Football game?
Richard Rodgers, I think, is a fine waiver grab in desperation. So you're the Antonio Gates owner. You're desperately scrambling because nobody's left. Richard Rodgers, because the defense of Denver is so good on wide receivers, maybe Richard Rodgers ends up with one of those play breaks down and he sneaks a touchdown in.
All right, let's go ahead and blitz through the Colts-Panthers game here. The Panthers are heavy favorites at home on Monday night. Cam Newton keeps getting it done. This team doesn't seem to have the, I'll jinx them now, but they don't seem to have the ability to give up a high amount of points. And so for Newton, it's just a matter of kind of being efficient enough in the offense to get them the victory. So talk to me about Andrew Luck. 2 bad games with your eyeballs, but 2 good games for fantasy the past 2 weeks.
I could see that happening again this week. I think Andrew Luck is going to get blown up in the first half of this game. The Carolina pass D, their pass rush is fantastic, and the O-line for Indy and the way that Andrew Luck has been holding the ball, he's going to get his helmet popped off a few times. However, at the end of the game, they're going to have to. They're going to have to throw a lot. I expect Carolina to be up. I expect the defense to kind of change, more prevent a little bit, and give up some fantasy value. The one thing I don't expect to have happen is I don't expect T.Y. Hilton to be the guy. The reports are that Josh Norman is going to be the guy covering him, and he has pretty much shut down everybody that he has faced. You don't score touchdowns. You don't get a lot of targets. Because you're going to get picks when you throw his way.
We've already made a bet on this. We bet Hilton versus LaFell.
Yeah,
right?
I took LaFell.
And I am still very confident in Hilton's performance in this week. They move him around on the field. He's a different kind of player than your traditional big one wide receiver. And so I think he's very hard to keep the ball out of his hands. I think he's in that Steve Smith category where it's kind of like you move him around, you do unique stuff with him. He'll get his. That's my thought process, and we'll find out.
He could. He's different than the guys Norman. Norman normally is covering, the 6'4" type guy, and right now he's covering the speedster. So that might work in your favor. I do think my start of the week, Moncrief, is going to have a great game.
Yeah, it could happen. I remember I had my confession. Moncrief's a real player. I was feeling that a little bit last night when Rashard Matthews caught those 2 big passes to start the game, but then he dropped a couple. And all right, Jonathan Stewart. I heard a stat yesterday. He's the only running back. Now he's coming off of 2 really big games. Looks like 20 carries, 24 carries. He's the only running back with 5+ matchups in terms of the running defenses the rest of the season. Do we buy into him continuing to ascend on that offense, or at least doing what he's done the past couple weeks?
If he's going to get the carries, absolutely. Stewart was a guy I was tremendously high on coming into the year, and he was performing with the limited work he was getting during the beginning of the season. He was disappointing for fantasy because he wasn't getting those 20-touch games, and the touchdowns get stolen from him from either Newton or Tolbert. Other people seem to get the goal line carries. But like Andy said, 20 carries, 24 carries. If Jonathan Stewart gets that kind of a volume, he's still a good running back. He's just a fragile running back. But if he gets those numbers, he's going to give you great fantasy production. So, and with 5+ matchups coming up, Stewart is a guy. It might be harder to acquire him now that he's had back-to-back good games. But he's still one of those guys, a stretch run guy that I would like on my team.
All right, there's been a bank robbery, and you are the hostage negotiator. And the guy on the other end of the line says he will let a hostage free if you start a wide receiver from the Carolina Panthers. And you tell
on my
him,
own fantasy team?
and you tell him,
Kill that hostage. No, Ginn Jr. is, he could have a game.
hostage.
Yeah, let's say if it's on my fantasy team.
Oh,
Sorry.
I was just more making. You had to make a choice. You didn't. One of the options was not to kill the hostage.
I was complete with Jason.
Oh.
That my fantasy team is far more important than the stranger's life. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Greg Olson, does that count?
It should. It really should when it comes to contract negotiations.
But I'm with Jason. Is Ted Ginn Jr.
All right, and we're starting Gore.
You
Yeah,
are,
you-
but
All right.
You are.
All right. We need to move on. We need to move on and get into our daily fantasy sports segment. You heard us talk about it early on the day. If you're not playing FanDuel, go to FanDuel.com, sign up using the promo code BALLERS, and you'll get 200 free bucks. Oh, that doesn't rhyme. 200 free dollars.
Very nice.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and get into the daily dose.
The Daily Dose.
The fantasy footballers are pleased as peas once again to bring back Chris Meaney, the daily fantasy sports expert from the Fantasy Sports Network. How are you doing today, good sir?
Good, guys, good. I had Jerry Ferrer on yesterday to talk about some picks, so if anybody out there is a fan of his work through Entourage, they should check out our YouTube page, FantasySportsNetwork.com. Yeah, we had Turtle on there, and he's a big football guy, huge fantasy guy, and he told me he had Devontae Freeman on his team. He drafted him, but he dropped him after week 1.
Ouch.
Yeah,
I know.
it's not just me.
He's like, I'm feeling pretty good about my team. I'm 5-2, but really, like, at the end of the day, I dropped the best player in fantasy, probably.
Well, we are thankful to have you back on the show today. You're kind of taking over our Fridays, man. We had a bunch of iTunes reviews that came in, and they were saying how much they appreciated the Daily Dose segment on Fridays, so keep it coming.
Right.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I always love to talk football with you guys.
And last week I'm just taking credit for the Chris Meaney picks, of course, smashed it with Michael Floyd, who was extremely cheap, came through in a big way on Monday night. So let's start at the top, Chris. So let's start at the top. We got Aaron Rodgers, the numero uno guy. He's expensive, but he's got a tough matchup against Denver. Are you paying up for him or maybe a Luck? Who do you like? Luck, who has a terrible matchup as well. What quarterbacks are you paying for?
I'm definitely not paying for Aaron Rodgers, guys. I don't really like the matchup. This is in Denver. I saw Aaron Rodgers last year struggle in Buffalo against a tough defense at the time. Denver's defense has they've been outstanding. And we're talking about a Denver team that's 6-0 and really, not getting anything from their quarterback, to be honest. So I'm not paying up for Aaron Rodgers. It's too expensive for me. He could be a contrarian play in a big tournament, maybe not going to be heavily owned. I would rather play Ryan Fitzpatrick over him, and it's not a joke. I'm serious about that. Going against Oakland, allowed the 8th most to quarterbacks this season, fantasy points. Rivers threw 336 yards, 3 TDs against them. Flacco had a 384 game against them. McCowan had a 341 game against them. The only quarterback that didn't do anything against Oakland was Peyton Manning. So I like Ryan Fitzpatrick, actually. I think that I'd rather I could save myself a little bit of dough by going Fitzpatrick. I think Phillip Rivers is going to be a popular play at 8-5. Phillip Rivers has thrown the ball 171 times over the last 3 games, averaging 57 pass attempts and 7 touchdowns over the last 3 games. So it's unbelievable what he's been able to do. And I'm kind of staying away from that, too, because I think he's going to be a popular play. I like Fitzpatrick, and I like Andy Dalton a lot. I really do. He had good games against Pittsburgh last year, over 500 yards, 4 TDs in the 2 games. At least 18 fantasy points in every single start this season. 18 was the fewest, of course. He's had 21, 28, 31-point performances. So I like him a lot. He's had 14 touchdowns in 6 games. So I'm a big fan of that. I also like the Eifert. It's hard to know which receiver you want because Dalton throws it around a lot, and they have 2 good backs that are capable of running. So it's hard to figure out if you want AJ or if you want Jones. But I like Eifert. Pittsburgh has allowed 6 touchdowns to tight ends this year, too. So I actually like that combo in Dalton. And then with Eifert, you can actually really go heavy off the board with wide receivers if he wanted to.
So just to clarify, people, for Rivers, because I'm huge on him this week, if you're in a 50-50 or a cash, are you still comfortable going with Rivers?
Oh, yes, absolutely, 100%. I think that's the key. If you're going to do a 50-50 or a cash game, you want to put out your best possible lineup. You don't want to really flirt with guys who are boom and bust players. So Rivers is just, as I mentioned, he's had 171 pass attempts over the last 3 weeks. Just unbelievable. So, yeah, I would feel really comfortable rolling out Rivers against Baltimore. 8-5 is a nice price as well.
All right, let's talk some running backs. Who are some good value guys that you like to throw out this week?
I still like Doug Martin. I think last week I might have told you guys I like Doug Martin. I still like him against Atlanta, they haven't given up a lot of yards, but they've given up a lot of touchdowns, 10, I believe. So I still like Doug Martin at 7.5. I think maybe Vincent Jackson may hurt him a little bit, but not as much. I still feel comfortable playing him. Chris Johnson has been completely steady now since he's got the starting job. I mean, he looks like CJ2K of old. I mean, this guy is 30, but he's still like getting it done. He has a great matchup against Cleveland, giving up a lot of yards per game on the ground, per carry as well. Gurley's going to be a popular play. I mean, he was a popular play in the Millionaire contest last week, just about 50% owned, which is pretty high. But again, he has a decent matchup against San Fran. His price hasn't jumped all that much. I still like McFadden. I think he's the man in Dallas. So I don't believe in Christian Michael. I still need to see it to believe in him. I guess it's a tough matchup against Seattle, but I still don't mind it. And Justin Forsett, again, much like Cleveland can't stop the run, San Diego having their issues as well. So I do like Justin Forsett. My big play it's not a huge shocker, but Antonio Brown at 8.4 seems like a steal, especially if Big Ben's going to play, and it kind of looks like he is. So at 8.4, if Big Ben was healthy all year and Antonio Brown was there, he'd probably be around the $9,000 mark. So you're saving yourself a little bit of cash if you want to go with Antonio Brown, and I also like Mike Evans.
Yeah, we like Evans with Vincent Jackson likely to be out. So let's keep talking about some wide receivers real quick. A guy I'm huge on this week, Keenan Allen, going up against to pair him with Phillip Rivers. I think Allen may catch the ball 37 times this week and shatter all records. Who are some guys you like? Keenan Allen is obviously a top dog, and this is a great matchup. So I do like that. I mean, we've seen the catches. 9 catches last week, 14 the week before that. So, yeah, he could flirt with 30 catches. Who knows? But I know that was a joke. But Keenan Allen for sure is somebody that I would plug in with confidence. I still think Stefan Diggs, this guy seems to be for real, guys. He's looked really, really good over the past 3 weeks. Teddy Bridgewater, a lot of nice things to say about Stefan Diggs. He's got a nice matchup against Chicago, 6-7. And Michael Floyd again. I think I mentioned Floyd to you last week. It doesn't look like John Brown's going to play, and his price hasn't changed. Floyd, he's got touchdowns in 2 straight games now. He's still $4,900 against Cleveland. So I like that matchup a lot. And you know what? Nate Washington. It's just very impressive. Do you guys like Nasty Nate? We do. Cecil Shorts has been ruled out, and I think you could see an uptick in targets.
So 44 targets, that's top 40 in all of NFL. He's missed 3 games, averaging 11 targets per game. If just say he played those 3 games and he got those 11 targets, he would have the 4th most in football. And we already know DeAndre Hopkins has the most in football. It's because they run 76 plays per game. They just run a lot of plays. They got no run game now. Nate Washington's price has not jumped all that much. He was the minimum last week. This week he's $5,400. He's had 2 100-yard games. He's got a little bit of a revenge game against Tennessee. So I actually like Nate Washington a lot, and especially in these PPR formats, you get half the point for a catch. If this guy's getting double-digit targets, I feel like he can reel in like at least 7 or 8 of them.
Well, there you have it, Nasty Nate, Chris Meaney's pick of the week. If it wasn't, I just made him the pick of the week for Chris Meaney.
That's fine. I like that. It was going to be Austin Seferian-Jenkins, but I've heard some bad things from him. It doesn't look like he will actually suit up.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing as well. So once again, a big thank you to Chris Meaney from the Fantasy Sports Network. Tell them where you can find you on Twitter, Chris.
Yeah, you can follow me at Chris Meaney, Meaney. Getting a lot of questions. I just hope that I'm right more than I'm wrong, because obviously I'd like to help out anybody out there who has any questions. So feel free to fire away, and I'll get back to you. And good luck with your guys' lineups, everybody out there.
All right, we'll talk to you next week, Chris.
All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, that's some good information for you right there. He's been dependable this year.
That's Chris Meaney or Mr. Meaney if you're nasty.
Wow, he's been so dependable, you might call him Gary Barnage. Right? I got three new nicknames that have been submitted. You want to hear them?
For Barnage?
Yeah. First one, someone said you got to feel the barn.
Okay, going with the Bernie Sanders.
Number 2, chicken barn, you taste so good. And then number 3.
Well, hold on. Number 2.
It's not a nickname though.
Yeah, but
it's funny though.
It's very funny. But then this is one of those jokes where if you start thinking about it, that is thoroughly disgusting.
Okay. Yeah, we'll move on. Barnageddon. Not bad. Not bad. Keep them coming, people.
Barnageddon.
I heard another one yesterday, and I heard the barnacle because he sucks up all these targets and catches.
Barnacle, yeah.
Barnacle.
Barnageddon, man.
Barnageddon's not bad.
That's not bad.
We'll put it in the repertoire when he has another breakout game. If he does it this week against the Cardinals, I'll be impressed. But if McCown's playing, it certainly helps him. So we've got, let's see if this works today. We got a voicemail question.
Did we hit the drop?
Oh, no, we didn't. And it didn't work. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the mailbag.
Mailbag.
Mailbag, yeah. All right, I'm going to try to get to this one because this was a good voicemail question. I don't know why it's not working. Tyler, you guys go through these ones, and I'm
Tyler in Milwaukee. Hey, guys. Started listening to the podcast about a month ago. I have a bit of a situation at the flex position. Who would you start? Marvin Jones, Michael Crabtree, Golden Tate. This is a PPR. This is for you, Jason.
In a PPR league, I think that Michael Crabtree is going to have the most receptions, so your baseline is high there. But I'm going to go with Golden Tate. The matchup, the change of the offensive coordinator, the matchup against Kansas City's secondary, I think he's got a decent floor and a high ceiling.
I would go. Ooh, man, that's a tough one. It's hard to argue with the Golden Tate logic there, but I would go with Marvin Jones. He's been too hot,
and that's why this is a tough question. It really is, because literally all three are the best. I can tell you what our consensus rankings say.
Please do.
We've got Crabtree at 22, who is in the lead. No. Golden Tate comes in at 18.
All right, Golden Tate is your answer. All right, Victor in Orange, California. Is that it might supposed to be Orange County?
No, it's just Orange.
Just Orange? Is there a city called Orange?
Yep.
Those crazy Californians.
This is a good question.
Living in Orange. Moncrief or Lacey at flex?
Oh, man, I really like the potential of Moncrief, but against Carolina, I do think he's going to have a great game, but his floor could still be low, so I'm actually going to go Lacey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Moncrief.
All right.
All right. I managed to get the voicemail questions working, so I've got one for you. Ready?
Yep.
Hey, guys. It's Alexa in Tampa, and I wanted to know who is the best team wide receiver fantasy combination the rest of the season. With Big Ben presumably coming back this Sunday, I believe that Marty McBride and Antonio Brown, that combination is going to be the best. Surely you guys don't think that Larry Fitz and downtown John Brown are going to be better.
Hey,
right?
now.
Thanks so much. Love the show. Foot Clan for life.
Yeah. All right. So this is
Told you it was good stuff.
Yeah, that's good. Good. That was well worth the wait.
Yes.
To clarify,
Thank you,
this
Tech
is
Team.
This is team wide receivers, right? Not one. It's not Big Ben and
Yeah,
Antonio Brown.
she's just asking kind of what's the best team combo.
Well, then
wide
it's-
receiver core.
Yeah.
Best wide receiver core.
You threw me there because I'm definitely going Brady, but if you take Gronk out,
No. It's
Wide receiver
you're
core.
way off, Jason. It's a matter of like Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant, or John Brown and Larry Fitzgerald, or Julio Jones and Roddy White,
Yeah, but-
or Jordy Nelson.
plus the quarterback.
Yeah, it would have been Jordy.
No,
and
it's
Cobb.
not plus the quarterback.
Yeah, she said wide receiver quarterback combo.
Yeah,
No, she didn't. She said
was-
she said wide receiver combo.
I think
She said receiving core combo.
Receiving core combo with the quarterback.
No,
All
she
right.
didn't.
All right.
The way I am interpreting this question is which team the core from the wide receivers, which two will have the
Yeah.
highest fantasy
Yes.
for the rest of the
Yeah, and it's Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant.
So quarterback is clearly factored into this just because of
Yeah, it's factored
point.
into your thought of what's going to
Yes.
happen to them. And I think Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant are better than Larry Fitzgerald and John Brown, for sure. For sure. Here's how you do that. You start with a top 5 wide receiver, and then you see
Larry
who his
Fitzgerald,
running
right.
mate is. No, I know Larry is. but he hasn't been for as long as Antonio Brown has, or Calvin Johnson or Julio Jones. It's okay to start with him. He's in the consideration, but for me, like I would take Fitz and John Brown over Julio and X, because there's nobody else there.
Hopkins and
or
X.
Calvin and or Hopkins and X or Calvin and Tate. Like I think it's Brown and McBride though.
Brown and McBride?
Yeah, Antonio Brown and
I was
Marty
thinking
McBride.
John Brown was there's dual Brown situation here.
Yeah.
I can agree that I think Brown and Martavis will be the best core moving forward.
Yeah, you got to go with that. I'm going to throw out two sneaky ones though.
Okay.
Two sneakies.
Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker are not that bad. And also the Allen twins. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns.
Yep.
Oh,
as
man.
crazy as it is.
Welcome to 2015 football.
Yeah, and if Derek Carr continues his fearless slinging, Crabtree and Cooper, I think, are in consideration.
Fearless slinging. That is a term originated by Jay Cutler.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and snapback. We'll see what happens. I told some people who were in the streaming category, and we'll close on this, but if you've been streaming quarterbacks, somebody wrote me they had Bortles and Carr. I think Stafford's worth a flyer for those type of teams because it might not be this week, but I'd like to see what happens with the new offense there because that could change things up. He does have the weapons, you throw the ball up to Calvin, you have Ebron, you have Riddick out of the backfield. You have the Golden Tate. The pieces are there. It's just, I'm not saying he will get it together, but why not take a flyer on him if you're rolling out those other guys every week? Do you agree with that? Disagree?
I can agree with that, except Bortles is a mid QB1 at the moment. I mean, he is getting it done.
Sure.
Instead of I have to sit around and wait and see if Stafford can do it.
No, that's right. I guess bring him into your put him in the holster for your streaming quarterbacks maybe.
Yes, so let me say this: so you got to roster two of those three: Stafford, Bortles, and Tannehill. You're dropping one. Who are you dropping?
I'm dropping Stafford. I'm dropping Stafford right now.
I would drop Tannehill.
Of course, everybody would after last night. My goodness. So, all right, hey, thanks for listening this week. We appreciate everybody. Check out jointhefoot.com. Join our community. They just came out with a mobile app, so you can now follow the Foot Clan and the Fantasy Footballers on your phone as well.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.